Hey everyone, and welcome. We're diving into the amazing world of the immune system today. We've got some really cool scientific articles and illustrations about immunology, and we're going to break it all down for you. By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much better grasp on this awesome internal defense force that keeps us healthy. It's fascinating. The immune system isn't just one thing. It's more like an intricate web, a
Yeah.
web of cells and tissues all talking to each other, working together.
Yeah.
It's like a high-tech security system that's always running, always protecting your body.
I like that, a high-tech security system. So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal, huh? It's got to be multi-layered, right? Tell me more about how it's all organized.
Absolutely. So the first line of defense, that's your innate immune system. Think of it as a rapid response team. It's like security cameras and motion sensors, always on,
Hmm.
instantly picking up on anything suspicious. This system is ready to go right from birth, hardwired.
So like a built-in alarm system, no learning curve required, it just knows when something's off. What kind of sensors are we talking about here? How does it detect danger?
Good question. The innate system, it focuses on recognizing patterns, common patterns found on microbes. Think of them like red flags that scream, danger, intruder alert.
These patterns are called PAMPs, which stands for pathogen-associated molecular patterns. And to spot these red flags, the innate system uses what we call pattern recognition receptors, or PRRs.
So, like guards who are trained to spot anything out of place, anything that doesn't belong. But what about those sneaky invaders that make it past the first line of defense? That's where the adaptive immune system steps in, right?
Exactly. The adaptive system, that's like your elite intelligence unit. Now, they take a bit longer to react because they have to gather intel, develop a plan. But once they have a target, they are precise, efficient, and they never, ever forget an enemy. Okay, that's just amazing. It's like they build a file on each invader, so next time, bam, they're ready. So we've got the rapid response team, the innate system, and the elite intelligence unit, the adaptive system, both working together. Let's talk about some of the key players on these teams. Let's start with the innate system, what's in its arsenal.
All right, so picture this. Your skin, saliva, tears, even mucus. These are your first line of defense. They're like the castle walls and the moat, providing a physical and chemical barrier to keep those invaders out.
Ah, so simple but effective. Our skin, a literal wall, keeping out all those unwanted microscopic guests. And our saliva, tears, they're not just there for show, right? They come armed with antimicrobial molecules to neutralize invaders before they can even say boo. And the mucus, not just an unpleasant thought, but actually trapping pathogens, preventing them from reaching our organs.
Exactly. But there's more. The innate system also has cellular defenders like mast cells and basophils.
Those names ring a bell, but remind me what they do again.
Okay, imagine an alarm bell going off the second there's an intruder. That's mast cells and basophils. They release histamine, which triggers inflammation. Now, inflammation might sound bad, but it's actually good in this context. It's like the body calling for backup, sending more blood and immune cells to the site of infection to contain the threat.
Ah, so it's like setting up a flare, getting the troops rallied to fight those invaders. And this is where allergies come into play, right? Like when someone's got a pollen allergy, it's their mast cells going into overdrive, releasing too much histamine and causing those uncomfortable symptoms.
Right on. But let's not forget the big guns, the ones who do the dirty work, phagocytes. That's neutrophils and macrophages. These guys engulf and destroy pathogens.
Phagocytes, such a cool name. It's like they're Pac-Man gobbling up those pesky invaders. Tell me more about these little superheroes.
Okay, so neutrophils, they're like the first responders, right? Abundant in the blood, fastest to the scene, ready to take on those invaders head on. Macrophages, they're more like the cleanup crew. Bigger, live longer. And they're found in tissues throughout the body, not just the blood. And they don't just clean up the mess, they're crucial for tissue repair too. Like construction workers rebuilding after a battle.
Wow, talk about multitasking. Destroying invaders and then cleaning up, rebuilding, that's efficiency. What other defenders are on the team?
Oh, we've got more. Natural killer cells, or NK cells. Now, these are the specialized assassins of the innate system. They target infected cells, especially those pesky virus-infected cells, and even cancer cells. And here's the thing. Unlike other immune cells that need instructions, NK cells, they just know. They sense changes in a cell's surface, and they know. It's almost like a sixth sense for danger.
Wow, so they're like the super specialized forces trained to identify and eliminate threats with pinpoint accuracy. Okay, we've got the barriers, the alarms, the heavy hitters, the assassins. What else?
Last, but definitely not least, we have the complement system. Imagine a group of proteins, over 30 of them, acting like a pre-assembled booby trap in your blood. When activated, boom, they set off a chain reaction that ultimately explodes those invading microbes. It's a beautifully orchestrated attack.
Okay, that is incredible, like a domino effect. Each protein setting off the next, leading to the destruction of the pathogen. So that's the innate immune system complex, always on guard, ready to defend. But what about the adaptive immune system, those specialized forces? Tell me more about them.
The adaptive immune system, it's really remarkable. It's like, imagine having this elite team of detectives, right? And they don't just solve the crime. They keep these detailed records to make sure it never happens again.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me, how do these detective cells work?
The stars of the show here are lymphocytes, specifically B cells and T cells. They're like the Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson of your immune system.
Ooh, I love that analogy. So where do these detective cells come from? Are they just like born ready?
Well, both B cells and T cells, they actually start in the bone marrow. Think of it like a boot camp for immune cells. But then they split up for specialized training. T cells head to the thymus, it's a gland in your chest, and that's where they learn to tell friend from foe. Only the T cells that can perfectly identify those foreign invaders without accidentally attacking your own cells, they get to graduate, join the fight.
Wow, so it's like a super rigorous training program. Got to be sure they're ready for anything. And the B cells, where do they train?
B cells, they stay in the bone marrow for their training. And here's where it gets really cool. Each B cell and each T cell, it's unique. It's got this specific receptor that can only recognize a single target. It's like a key that only fits one lock.
That's incredible. So it's like having a key for every lock in the world. But with all the different kinds of invaders out there, how do they ever keep up?
That's the beauty of the adaptive immune system. It can create this massive, diverse army of B cells and T cells, each one ready for a specific enemy. This huge diversity is what lets your body fight off almost anything it comes across, from a simple cold to something really unusual.
Okay, so we've got our B cells and T cells trained and ready. But how do they actually work together? It's like a complex dance, isn't it? How do they coordinate their moves?
You're right, it's all about communication. Remember those dendritic cells we talked about? The messengers between the innate and adaptive immune system?
Oh, yeah, the ones who are like, hey, adaptive system, we've got a situation here.
Exactly. They're crucial for activating T cells. They travel to the lymph nodes, which are like meeting points for immune cells, and present antigens. Those are like wanted posters of pathogens to what we call naive T cells, the ones who haven't encountered that specific enemy before.
So the dendritic cells are like detectives pinning up evidence, hoping the right detective will recognize the culprit and jump on the case.
Exactly. And to be sure those T cells get a good look at the evidence, they use these special display cases called MHC molecules,
MHC molecules. What does MHC stand for?
major histocompatibility complex. There's two main types, MHC class I and MHC class II. And the type of MHC molecule used, that actually determines which type of T cell responds.
So it's like different bulletin boards for different kinds of crimes, right?
Yeah.
What happens when a T cell sees that antigen presented by the dendritic cell? Is it like, aha, gotcha?
Exactly. That's when things really get moving. The T cell is activated, and it goes through this process called clonal expansion. So imagine a single, highly trained soldier suddenly being copied into an entire battalion with the exact same skills.
Whoa, that's intense. One cell becomes an army, all ready to fight that specific pathogen, like hitting the duplicate button on a superhero. What happens next?
These new T cells, they differentiate into specialized effector cells. Each one has a unique role to play in getting rid of the threat.
So the army branches out, each unit with its own expertise.
Precisely. We've got cytotoxic T cells, or CD8 plus T cells. They're like assassins, directly targeting and killing infected cells or cancer cells. They do this by triggering something called apoptosis.
Apoptosis. Sounds kind of ominous. What is that exactly?
It's basically programmed cell death. The cytotoxic T cell tells the infected cell to self-destruct in a very controlled way. No collateral damage to the surrounding healthy cells.
So it's like a clean, precise operation, no stray bullets. What about the other types of T cells? What do they do?
Right. We also have helper T cells, or CD4 plus T cells. Now, these guys are like the coordinators. They don't directly kill infected cells. Instead, they release these chemical messengers called cytokines that tell other immune cells what to do.
So they're like the generals strategizing the whole battle plan. Are there different kinds of helper T cells too?
You bet. There are different subsets, each with their own cytokines and functions. For instance, Th1 cells, they're key for activating macrophages, making them even better at gobbling up pathogens.
So they're like the cheerleaders for the macrophages.
Yeah.
Go, 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 you got this.
Exactly. And then we have Th2 cells. They're essential for activating those B cells and getting antibody production going.
Wow, this is incredible. It's like a perfectly choreographed dance, every cell playing its part. But what happens when the music stops? Does the immune response just keep going?
That's a great question. Once the infection's gone, things have to calm down. We don't want all those soldiers hanging around when there's no battle, right?
Right, that'd be like a standing army in peacetime, not very efficient.
Exactly. So most of those effector T cells, they die off. But, and this is crucial, some survive as memory cells.
Memory cells, it's like having a photographic memory of past battles, right?
Precisely. They provide long-lasting immunity. So if you ever run into that same pathogen again, your immune system is ready for a much faster and stronger response.
It's like having a team of veterans on standby, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Amazing.
It is, and that's one of the big reasons vaccines work so well. They're like a practice run, showing your immune system a harmless version of the pathogen, so it can build up those memory cells without you actually getting sick.
Vaccines are amazing. But we've focused on the immune system protecting us. What about when it, well, messes up?
That's an important point to discuss. The immune system, it's powerful, but it's also delicate. Sometimes things go wrong, and that's when we see what we call immune dysfunctions.
Immune dysfunctions, that doesn't sound good at all. Tell me more about what can go wrong with this intricate system. So we talked about allergies, the immune system going a little haywire there, but what are some other ways this finely tuned system can go off track?
Well, there are times when the immune system mistakes the body's own cells for invaders, and that's when you get autoimmune diseases.
So it's like what the immune system gets its wires crossed, starts attacking its own team instead of the real bad guys.
That's a great way to put it. And unfortunately, it can be pretty serious. Autoimmune diseases, they cover a wide range of conditions, each with its own unique symptoms and challenges.
We mentioned a few earlier, like type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. Can you give us a little more detail on those? Like what's happening at the cellular level in these diseases?
Sure, so type 1 diabetes, the immune system goes after the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. These cells, they're essential for regulating blood sugar, and without them, your body can't use glucose for energy properly.
Oh, wow. So the immune system is basically sabotaging the body's energy control system. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It requires lifelong management. Then there's rheumatoid arthritis. In this case, the immune system attacks the lining of the joints, causes inflammation, pain, stiffness, and eventually it can really damage the joints.
So the immune system is basically waging war on the joints. That sounds incredibly painful.
It is, unfortunately. And with multiple sclerosis, MS, the immune system targets the myelin. That's the protective covering of nerve fibers.
Right, and that
Mhm.
disrupts the communication between the brain and the body, doesn't it?
Exactly. Leads to a whole range of symptoms, from fatigue and muscle weakness to vision problems, even difficulty with coordination and balance.
Wow, those are some really serious conditions. It's amazing, really, how much damage a dysregulated immune system can inflict. It really makes you appreciate the importance of research in this area, finding ways to restore that balance.
Absolutely. Researchers are working hard to develop new therapies for these diseases, and they are making progress. Some therapies focus on suppressing that overactive immune response, while others are trying to, in a way, re-educate the immune system. Teach it to recognize those self-antigens as friendly again.
It's like giving the immune system a crash course in friend or foe all over again.
Mm.
But it's not all doom and gloom with immune dysfunction, right? Haven't there been some remarkable breakthroughs in using the immune system to actually fight diseases like cancer?
100%. The field of immunotherapy is changing everything about how we treat cancer. Instead of just attacking cancer cells directly with chemo or radiation immunotherapy, it harnesses the power of the immune system itself to recognize and destroy those cancer cells.
So it's like we're giving the immune system the tools and the intel it needs to fight the cancer on its own.
Exactly. One really promising approach uses what we call checkpoint inhibitors. See, cancer cells, they're sneaky. They often have these molecules on their surface that are like "don't eat me" signals to the immune system. Checkpoint inhibitors, they block those signals, allowing the immune system to see the cancer cells as the threat they really are.
So it's like taking the blinders off the immune system.
Yes, and this approach, it's been incredibly successful in treating certain types of cancers. And we can't forget about vaccines. They're like giving your immune system a sneak peek at a potential enemy, so it's ready to go if that enemy ever shows up for real.
Vaccines have been so effective in preventing so many infectious diseases. Countless lives saved. It's amazing how such a simple concept can have such a huge impact.
It really is. And research is ongoing to develop new and even better vaccines for more diseases. It could revolutionize how we approach global health.
Well, we've covered so much today: the incredible workings of the immune system, the challenges of immune dysfunction, and the amazing potential of immunotherapy. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts?
The immune system is just this incredibly complex and dynamic network that's constantly adapting to protect us. The more we learn about it, the more we realize how much more there is to learn. This field is just ripe for new discoveries, new therapies, new innovations. It's incredibly exciting.
It really feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. What an incredible journey this has been. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And to everyone listening, we hope you've gained a new appreciation for this incredible world inside all of us, that silent guardian working tirelessly to keep us healthy. Stay curious, keep exploring, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.